Tihei Māori ora ki te whao ki te ao marama, ki te hunga kui whatarangi tia, haere atu rā, kanahui ora e hui mane tēnā tatu katoa. As I mentioned before, my name is Nathan Miha, born and bred in Gizzy. First of all, I do apologise, I got pulled in because someone pulled out. So hopefully what I share today will enable questions and hopefully there's some questions I can try and answer. And excuse me if I look down, because I've just made a list. I felt guilty looking at Gareth's presentation that I have absolutely nothing other than notes I've made. So anyway, so again, I'm a director of ICONIQ construction. My business is in 4 regions. Our head office is here in the city. I have an office in Gizzy, I have an office in Auckland and also in Hawke's Bay. We deliver around 80% of kāinga order houses, as I mentioned before. We're a build partner and a developer, so we buy the land, develop it, and we give them the key. We've been doing that for the last 3.5 years. As I mentioned before, the tap's been turned off in many aspects. But again, we still have the certain relationship with government. I know there's T-Big in the house today in terms of the ECI engineer to the contract. So I've dealt with the organisation before, or my QSs have, and you guys do a pretty good job. So we deliver around, I'd say, between 100 to 120 houses a year as a business. Business diversity, so that's pretty big. I know Gareth touched on it. So we have subsidiary businesses within the group. So we have a Pacify company, a scaffolding business. We also have a cladding system, apologies to suppliers. We bring aluminium cladding from overseas. It's all brands approved and we use them on our developments around the country. Again, when we try and talk about being cost effective as a developer, we've got to think smarter and think outside the box. We also bring certain lights in to New Zealand. Similar for our developments, again, needed to be approved from kāinga order, which we did. Again, 30-40% cost saving. If you're doing 10,000 lights, that's quite a bit of money. And then we bought some land down in Paihiatua, so carbon forest. So 100 trees, every house we build, we plant 100 trees. I think that's something pretty cool. And again, so our relationships in terms of delivery, so there's pre-existing contracts that we have. As you know, the new coalition has come in, kāinga order got the review, tap's been turned off. So we've got existing contracts. We have 60 homes left to deliver in Gizzy and 20 here in Auckland, as the previous contracts that were signed back then and need to be finished by next year. They consist of mixed 2-level and 3-level walk-up apartments. Again, from a developer's point of view, we've designed, and we use XLAM, but we like to think we're pretty good at what we do. Going back to Gareth's point. Also, just to mention, if you guys are familiar, so we still work with kāinga order in the HDS space, if you haven't heard of that. So it's housing delivery system. It's a new system within KO. Again, they're trying to speed up processes internally. They are employing their own engineers and architects and everything like that. I still see issues with it, but that's their side, not mine. There is a housing program coming out, and is coming out, and there are houses getting trickled out, which is interesting because the industry at the moment, as we know from a subcontractor's point of view, is pretty tough. I get 2, 3, 4 phone calls a week, people looking for work, and which is really disappointing because no doubt, like NZ Strongs and everyone out there, you can only provide work for your reliable subcontractors that are involved with you, i.e. live firms are pretty good too. Heavily involved with iwi. I was talking to a colleague in here. The iwi or Māori iwi space is pretty big. Like there's billions and billions of dollars going around in the economy. I'm heavily involved in that space. Talking about ECIs, Ngāti Porou, which is my whānau back home in Gizzy. We were engaged to do the design and everything on 44 units. We put a spade in the ground before Christmas, blessed the site, all affordable housing, Some of them are rentals, some are rent to buy, so it's a combination. Also dealing with iwi Group in Wairoa, up north. But from my perspective, when I talk about the iwi space, the iwi or the Māori economy is going in its own direction in terms of what they want to do, but that everyone's able to come on the journey. Subcontractors, pretty key. We have over 250 subcontractors, and that's nationally. Reason for that, as I told you guys, we deal in 4 regions. It's interesting, each region is different in terms of their capabilities. But what we've managed to do is, unfortunately, by default in the smaller regions, they struggle to tender work. So you almost got to be transparent and provide certain things, because these smaller businesses, I'm talking builders, plumbers, electricians, they can do the work. But from a QSing point of view, some of them, or majority of them, just don't understand. So we create templates for each region. Each subcontractor puts down their capabilities. Our team interviews them, and we just say, okay, if you're a small, medium-sized civil contractor, you could participate in the concrete or footpaths, as an example. Again, I've just made a note here, tendering education for smaller SMEs nationally. As we know, there is going to be a shortage, there is going to be a shortage of resources, I'd say, middle of next year to the end of next year. It's just basically going to go there, and then it's just going to shoot up. The market, government direction, again, I'm involved in some advisory groups that deal with ministers, and yes, they are wrong most of the time, but that's all good, we keep it in this room. As you know, community house providers is a big focus, so there's 1,500 homes coming out for chip providers, which isn't much actually, because I think the statistics is 25,000 houses needed in New Zealand, so it bamboozled me why they've only got 1,500. And it's being provided to community house providers, 2025 to 2027. HUD, I don't know if anyone in the room's familiar, so HUD has now got this new underwrite happening. So anyone that develops houses and has readiness projects with 30 houses or more, and they have resource consent, then you can go onto the HUD website and you can apply to be a part of that system. I was in Wellington yesterday just to share, which is a positive thing in my mind, so about trade academies. Because we've got to bring the next generation up, and unfortunately, there's a lot of kids today in this generation that struggle around, they're all not going to be doctors or anything like that. So everyone's falling back to wanting to get into the trades. So the government is looking at a huge investment via TEC, MOE, and even Kaingora's got a new thing coming out with partnerships with Kiwi Bank around building affordable housing and so on. And it will come out into the market. And I don't even know why I'm advocating for the government while I'm standing up here, so sorry about that. But I just thought I'd share that's what's happening, because I'm heavily involved in that stuff. And most of the time, I get fumed. It's fuming for me because, and that's why I really love being involved in NZIOB, especially the golf tournaments, is because it's about the industry, right? How do we pick the industry up? How do we pick those businesses up that don't have work? And these are the things I advocate in ministers' offices and meetings and stuff, and talking to Andrew Crisp and them at HUD, is that you got to realise that if this subcontractor has 5 guys, he has these 5 families, and they don't understand that. That's the thing I keep driving, and it disappoints me. Last not least, I know there was a thing up there which Gareth says, procurement. From my perspective, relationships is critical, and that's from a subcontractor and a client point of view. Competency and skill set from a subcontractor. Again, going back to the vetting process I just want to look someone in the eye that owns the business and says, are you good at building? And he says, yes, okay, you can participate. You brought up risk? Beautiful question, eh? Yeah, unfortunately, and I think Gareth hit it on the head, client relationships and knowing that you are good at what you do, if you are good, then risk shouldn't be a problem, because you should know how to do things when we talk about building houses. And last but not least, to leave, staff, Gareth said it again, staff management, culture and process is really important to any business. And it's like a stool. You pull one away, usually falls over some way or somehow, then you've got to put it back. But anyway, nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou, katoa. Thank you.